Hey, Triple Fivers, Andrew here. Hope you guys are doing well. I realize that it has been 15 years since I started concealing carrying. And so in this video, I'm going to take you through my whole evolution of setups. You're going to start with my very first pistol that I concealed and carried all the way up to my current setup. A lot has changed. There have been major improvements over the years that I've been carrying. Now, I'm not a police officer. I don't have a military background, but I think my perspective as an ordinary prepared citizen should be helpful for you. If you're new to concealing carrying, please make sure to stick to the end, because at the end of the video I'll be talking about the principles behind concealing carrying and why it might be something worth considering for you. As you'll see, I've tried to capture my conceal and carry history with 4 pistol examples here, 3 of which were actually specifically very important to me. 1 not so much, and I'll explain when I get there. Let's start off with this beauty. This is the SIG P6. Glory of the 80s. This one was manufactured in December of 1983. The SIG P6 is basically a version of the SIG P225. It's a compact SIG. It was manufactured especially in the 80s. This particular version was issued to the West German police force and then decommissioned. I gloriously found it in the Cabela's used section in my 20s. I've greatly enjoyed having this gun. It was my first pistol, in fact. It's a double action gun. It's got a full metal frame, and as you can see, it's just got this beautiful, nice patina, beautiful blued slide. It's a really solid gun, really good first gun for me. But look, it's an 8+1. It didn't have a lot of capacity, and it doesn't really like anything other than FMJ ammo, just the way the feed ramp is. The other thing that's obviously interesting about this is the fact that it's a double action gun. We are talking about a 24-pound trigger pull on this bad boy. Crazy amount of trigger pull. This was actually good for my first pistol just because it really did force me to have a lot of trigger discipline, and it forced me to really understand how to properly pull a trigger. Of course, when it's in single action mode, it's much better. It's still like 8 pounds trigger pull, a lot. So what you're getting in this compact pistol is a 3.9-inch barrel. It's 30.4 ounces, and for basically a very beautiful looking, I mean, just look at this gun. It's just so beautiful. A very beautiful classic steel frame hammerfire gun. It was a great first choice, but there was a major limitation, and that was the holster. I had a very hard time finding a inside the waistband holster. This Dan Hume holster here basically was fine. It was shaped obviously to the holster in general and did have a metal clip. But the problem was, of course, is with these leather-formed holsters, you had to soak them and do all kinds of weird stuff to really make them tight, and they would still loosen up. They would do that easily. And so carrying this gun with the idea of even having to run or do any kind of physical activity, it just never felt very secure. And, of course, that grip, which is fairly large, it's a polymer plastic cover, did print a fair amount. As much as I still love this gun, the poor sights, the low capacity, and the weight were real deal breakers for carrying this gun every day, especially with the lousy holster. Moving on, I did decide to get something a little bit smaller and have some features that wasn't there on the P6 when I moved to the SIG P938. And as you can see, it's in what's called a Nate Squared Tactical Pancake holster. The holster literally looks like a pancake. Doesn't that? Don't you want to put some Aunt Jemimas on that? It was around 2014 when I got the P938, and I was personally really excited about the smaller footprint that this gun would allow me to have. After the P6, I was interested in going to something a little bit smaller, and I was also interested in the 1911-ish Manual of Arms. And with this gun, you do get that nice subcompact size. It's a 3-inch barrel, 16 ounces by comparison, so much lighter. Even with a giant holster like this, big slab of leather, it makes the gun very hard to draw. That was one of the things I quickly discovered with a holster like this. As comfortable as it was hard to get good retention. As for the gun itself, I find it to be very mechanically accurate, but it's a challenge to shoot. It's a hard gun to shoot because, first of all, it's just kind of small. I mean, this is a small little gun, even with the extended mag. Sure is pretty. That was one of the things that got me back in the day, was that Equinox treatment on this SIG Sauer from their custom shop. They do a little bit of work on that slide, especially. Really nice brush finish. nice grips. Handsome gun, handsome to look at, made me more excited to carry, which I think was really a good thing. I was still dealing with low capacity. This is a 7+1, and in 9mm 7+1, it was just not exactly enough firepower in the long run for me. But this is a gun that I still like to keep around. I like the 1911 Manual of Arms. I think that the thumb safety is actually pretty easy to get used to. Training wise, it's not hard to figure out how to use it, and the trigger on this is much better. We're talking about like a 7.5 pound trigger. So I was able to get more comfortable carrying on a daily basis with this gun. And I wasn't losing some of the things that I had gotten used to with the P6, like having a hammer fire gun, full metal frame. It was a transition I was ready to make. And then I was able to also have a gun now that had good night sights and a better trigger. Oh, did you see that lint go fly in there? Wow, that's see, I actually do in fact carry this little guy. And it was fun to take to the range as well, because people would be surprised that this tiny little gun would actually shoot nicely with that trigger. Eventually, I was able to upgrade to a better holster. This is a Concealment Express Kydex holster with a DDC clip. This makes the gun very easy to conceal. I still sometimes will wear this on formal occasions. It's not my favorite gun to carry. I still find it more challenging to shoot than some of the other guns I'm going to have. But the quality of the Kydex holster is actually very good if you're looking for an affordable Kydex holster. Concealment Express, I've bought a number of their holsters, including this one. I really like it. And of course, one of the things that I think I learned the most is that I'm not just shooting on a flat range or indoors, as I was often shooting indoors. If I'm really training for self-defense, I need to be ready to shoot in the dark. And at the time, night sights were really the way to go. And so I was very impressed with the SIG Light sights on this upgraded Equinox, and it worked well for me. Now, by about 2018, I had been concealing carrying long enough that I felt comfortable to move back to a full-size gun, and I knew at this point that I was ready for more capacity. And in particular, this Glock 21 is an example of the type of gun that I was very excited about back in the day. It is double-stack gun. It can carry 13 in that double-stack magazine, and it does have that 45 cal, which, a lot of guys, especially in the mid 2000s, were still pretty excited about 45. I personally love 1911, so I was glad to get a Glock with a proper caliber in it. I did have to upgrade a bunch of stuff on it. This does have a aftermarket match barrel. It also has night sights. The Glock sights, of course, are terrible. And coming in at 29.28 ounces, it was actually less weight than the SIG P6. I don't mind Glocks. Glocks are fine. They have their place. They're extremely reliable. I fail to find criticism with Glock other than I don't like the grip angle, but that really isn't a reason not to train with the gun when they're so proven. And honestly, the triggers are good. They're comfortable to shoot. They're dead nuts reliable, and I found that the modifications that I did to this gun, which were the first modifications I had ever done to a pistol, went very smoothly. Now, one of the things that I think is interesting about this particular gun, the 21, is that it doesn't have the huge amount of support that you get in the 19 and the 17. And so in retrospect, I think I would have probably just gotten the mainstream 9 guns and would have been happier just having all of the aftermarket accessories that are available for the 19 and the 17. The other really big upgrade in this era was moving to a proper Kydex holster with better clip designs that clipped under the belt, made the gun much more secure, made the draw cycle much more reliable. I'm sure some of the Tupperware boys are saying, hey, you're right there, man. Just keep working on your Glocks. And that's fine, but I actually did really enjoy carrying a P229 quite a bit at that point, as well as I mentioned, different 1911s. And then I really started getting interesting in the new SIGs. And I did have a SIG P320. Actually, this is the Mark 18. And after kind of a lot of concerns about the Mark 18, I ended up selling it and moving to this. This is the SIG P365 XL. As you can see, I've got it in a very kind of state-of-the-art holster. This is the Philster Egnima with a Henry holster, and as you can see, it's set up for a number of major upgrades as far as my carry goes. Like a lot of guys, around 2020, I got more serious about my training. After carrying a number of full-size guns around and switching it up pretty frequently, I decided to just find one gun that I would upgrade fully and properly and focus on carrying that gun primarily and training with that gun primarily. And that's what I did with this 365 XL. I upgraded the grip with the Wilson Combat Grip. It got a Streamlight TLR7 sublight, which for me has been very reliable. And then I went ahead and got the Trijicon RMRCC, which seemed to be the most durable optic available. All told, I felt like I had an extremely useful, practical, hardworking conceal and carry gun with no extra frills and none of the distractions that previous conceal and carry guns had given me. So I find this to be very personalized to my hand. I find it having the capacity that I'm looking for, especially with the extended mag. And with these new holsters, even with the extended mag, I find the gun to be extremely concealable. And that is a critical thing for me because I need to be able to conceal this in any variety of outfits and situations. And so this gun has overall met my conceal and carry needs more than any of the other guns that I've shown you in this video. But as far as this is, it's got a pretty nice striker-fired trigger. It's not crazy. I'd say that it probably comes in at about 5 pounds. That flat face trigger is something that I like. It's comfortable to carry, and it's just kind of got all the features that I think you would want a concealed carry gun. And I find that I can carry it a lot more, especially with these crazy new holsters. So of course the Philster Egnima is kind of the most revolutionary holster that's come onto the scene in the last couple years, utilizing amazing magnetic clips. Basically what this holster does is it eliminates the need for a belt altogether. You can just strap this on over your underwear and your undershirt and then go ahead and tuck in your shirt and do whatever you need to do throughout your day. And this very nicely conceals the gun. It carries a little bit higher than a traditional belt holster, but it's totally fine. I do actually also have a Tenicor Sagia Lux holster, which is basically the most advanced, as far as I know, Kydex holster on the market. It's ergonomically shaped so that it kind of sits in a very specific way on my body once you get it adjusted. And it does have those double metal DDC clips, which is a big upgrade over the plastic clips that you would be getting on some of the older holsters. As you can see, too, it's got that claw that's actually integrated into the holster. This is a very sturdy, very simple holster, very ergonomic, very well designed. I've talked about it more in a YouTube short that I made about this gun, but it's basically my favorite holster after this Philster Egnima, which is kind of taken me by surprise with how good it is. Now, things that I think I am looking forward to is possibly getting a comped version of the 365 XL. There are, of course, a number of versions out there. The one that kind of is interesting me right now is the Legion. But right now, this is a very satisfactory gun for me, and everything that I'm looking to upgrade is just basically enhancements and not necessities. Before I forget, unless I specified otherwise, all of these guns have been very reliable for me, and that was a sine qua non for conceal and carry. At this point, you can very reliably get a Kydex holster that's going to have very strong retention and is still going to allow for a very natural draw cycle. And so things like the Philster Egnima or the Tenicor Sagia Lux are really quite impressive. When I'm looking ahead, I'm really looking next at going back to, again, a full-size gun, but perhaps getting something, honestly, I'm pretty darn impressed these days with Walther. They have a whole bunch of cool guns. I haven't really carried an M&P, and the newest M&Ps look amazing to me. But the idea of carrying a full-size gun with some of these really state-of-the-art holsters, or maybe even getting something beautiful and classic like this Nighthawk, and then getting a really modern state-of-the-art holster seems to me like something that could maybe even give me more shooting capacity and shooting capability, because obviously it's much easier to shoot a full-size gun. That being said, I have been very happy with my SIG P365 XL. I don't find it difficult to shoot, and I do find it mechanically accurate. As I promised for those who made it to the end, Why conceal carry at all? Well, first of all, I would just make an appeal to the Second Amendment that you are part of the militia. You're responsible for helping keep the peace in our country if you're an American. You know, back in the day, Ronald Reagan, I think, mistakenly said that no one needed to have a weapon on their person. But with the sudden decline of culture and the rise of crime, to me, conceal and carrying is really not only a responsibility, but an obligation that I have to protect those that are near me who I am responsible for caring for. In my experience, conceal and carrying was also the gateway to better training. Because I always had my gun on my person, I was regularly practicing dry firing, regularly practicing my draw cycle, regularly practicing at the range because it was easier to get there since I already had a gun with me. It was basically the minimum to start a habit of regular training. Guys, if you made it all the way here to the end of the video, thank you so much. Let's make the comment section useful for people that are new to conceal and carry. So please comment below with the changes and improvements that you have made over the years, and also the direction that you're taking your conceal and carry. In the meantime, please make sure to subscribe to 555 Gear if you're new to the channel. And if you enjoyed and found this video helpful or interesting, please make sure to leave me a thumbs up. Thanks so much for watching 555 Gear. Ha 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 ha.